I found they to confirm the reality of good thermals and good conditions. Also, this temperature gradient also suggests me some more things about the flying here in Egypt. It is first, you have these prevailing northerly winds coming from the Mediterranean, then they are kind of amplified from the Red Sea, allowing for a deeper penetration of the northerlies. You also don't have very big mountain barriers for these northerly winds. So the northern part of the country, like up to Ain Sokhna Mountain, Cairo, you have temperature gradient which is not so good because it's still like a sea breeze coming from the Mediterranean coast. It takes time to mix the oil with to be heated from below. But if you go more south, suddenly the conditions are improving, and this is also another source and another suggestions where you should look for cross-country spots. It also gives you idea about the cross-country directions where you should fly. Even the Meteo Blue with the winds, it's showing this big convergent line south of San Anthony Monastery, stretching past Hurghada, Safaga. That's why I'm optimistic that here some big flights of 200-300 kilometers, maybe more, can happen. And after I have an idea what the day looks like, then I'm going to the place. On the way to the place, I'm keeping an eye on the wind indicators like flags or rubbish or smoke. Here, another thing is the haziness of the sky. Like often when you approach Ain Sokhna in the morning, it's very hazy. It's a sign that you're under the inversion layer. Like in the first part of the day, there is stability. This means not much thermals. This also means not much winds. The winds are still above the inversion. But it also gives you a clue how quickly this inversion will melt and how quickly your flying places will work, or if you're worried about the wind. Sometimes the inversion is good because it protects you from the higher winds above, and under the inversion you're still having lighter winds. Here it depends on what your goals are, if you're doing training flights or cross-country flights or whatever. And then when I go to the hill, I'm again looking for confirmation. I'm using mostly because, for example, here you don't have trees, vegetation. So I'm using my skin sensor to feel where is the wind coming from. I'm pretty good with this. Like when you turn your head left and right to have equal noise in your ears, you can direct your face directly towards the wind. So you can pretty precisely identify the wind direction, the wind strength.
And is this when you're flying?
Yeah.
Nikolay, is this when you're flying? So you can decide. This is actually one of my questions. Now, if when you're flying and you don't know where the wind is coming from and there is no indication on the ground, like you don't have trees, if you're flying over the desert or something like that, and you want to know where the wind is blowing from, is there a way to know when you're flying where the wind is coming from?
Yeah. Okay. You cannot understand where is the wind coming from by the face feeling, because when you fly, you feel your airspeed. You completely have no idea about the wind because you feel only airspeed in your face, in your ears. You can fly in jet stream with 300 kilometers per hour over the ground, and you still feel 37 kilometers per hour airspeed. So when I'm flying on a cross-country flight, first I'm relying on what I remember from the forecasts about wind direction. And things here are pretty straightforward because you don't have such a big mountains to block the wind. You have pretty more or less the wind coming from the same direction. But it's useful, for example, if you're in doubt, to have instrument or telephone application with GPS. So you just check in this direction you're flying with this speed, in this direction you're flying with that speed, and this is it can help you with this. But of course, we are pilots; we must be independent from all these gadgets. So what I'm using, especially for when I'm low and searching for thermals, or when I'm low and thinking for landing, I'm visually looking and reading my ground speed. And then I'm understanding what is the wind speed and what is the landing direction or what is the searching direction. So when you're close to the ground, when you're high, you're pretty helpless. You cannot see it much, but when you're low to the ground, like 200-300 meters, you see that in this direction, physically, the ground is going fast in the opposite direction of your movement, or slower, or you can recognize with your eye judgment, it comes with experience, a little drift to the left and to the right. So just by the eye judgment, you can also kind of project where your gliding trajectory will bring you with different wind scenarios. So you have to learn visually to read the ground speed, and then from this ground speed, you understand what is the wind speed in flight.
I see. So, thank you for this. Now, moving forward to my second question, which is about site analysis. How would you, when you go to explore a new site, how do you basically validate that this is a good site to take off from, or this is not actually a good site? What is your criteria of identifying that this is a proper site to take off or not to take off?
Yeah. Okay, so you need a good slope, steep slope, facing the wind. Not obligatory a cliff, but steep enough. Like if it's a little bit shallow slope, it may trigger the thermals more in front, and it might be more difficult to soar and whatever. And the place should be high. The high place is usually blocking the wind well, and it creates a good lift zone in front. And this good lift zone in front allows you to soar like dynamic soaring. And if the days with thermals, during this soaring, you are intersecting some of these thermals, or they intersect you, and they pass through you, and you start turning them. So the good site is a site which is blocking well the wind, like ridge. It's facing the wind. Like here, you are having mostly northwest, north, and northeasterly winds. It should be a little bit higher than, let's say, 150, 200 meters. Even in Bulgaria, we have great flights and even record flights from hills which are 50 meters. And I'm sure you have big flights here, even from the 50-meter high hills. But it's still a little bit difficult with these hills. A little bit bigger height, like 200-300 meters, are fine for cross-country flying. Even no need to look for something bigger than this, but 200-400 meters it's kind of good hill. Also, you need good road access. Should be easy to climb. Some places are difficult if you climb some rocky mountains. It's good also to have some roads around. Remember that the cross-country flying in the desert is having the challenge of surviving after landing. Because if you go in the middle of nowhere, you need some roads, you need some access to civilization if you don't want to disappear in the desert. So the logistical side is also part of the assessment. And more or less, that's it.
I see. Thank you for that. And my final question, not final, actually, I have two more questions. Now, my next question would be, when you're thermaling and you reach cloud base, like for example, when you have cumulus clouds, is it any good idea to reach the cloud base and enter into the cloud itself, like just to enjoy the cloud, or do you once you get to the cloud base, you exit and you find another thermal and basically try not to enter into the cloud?
No, it's perfectly fine to reach the cloud base, to go inside the cloud. Of course, you have to make sure that it's not some congestus clouds or thunderstorm cloud. In the beginning of my cross-country flying, I was using a lot of cloud flying to gain some extra height, to make a bigger transitions to the next climb. But in the last 10, 15 years, I stopped doing this because a little bit unpleasant to get wet inside the cloud if you stay too much inside the cloud. Your equipment is getting wet, the glider is getting wet, so it's not so pleasant. But safety-wise, if the cloud is not that big vertically, it's not a problem you to enter the cloud a little bit more. But it's good to have, again, GPS or compass, so at least you know in what direction to exit the cloud, so you don't get kind of lost. And be careful with clouds touching the mountains, because if you enter the cloud, you may hit the mountain if you get disoriented and lost. So it's fine to fly in clouds, but not too close to the terrain.
Okay. My final question is regarding it's kind of a personal question with regards to single skin gliders.
Yeah.
What's your view on them? Are they good for soaring and thermaling, or are they just like a hike and fly, like going up from the mountain down to the floor or to the ground? I mean, and that's it. Because the reason I'm asking is that I find it very tedious to be carrying like 19 kilograms worth of equipment, while if I get my hike and fly gear, it could be like more or less five kilograms. So is it worth it to invest in hike and fly gear like a single skin wing, and basically consider that as my primary wing for soaring and thermaling, or it's not good for that?
I prefer personally to have a good wing and to sacrifice from everything else in terms of weight of equipment. I flew single skin wings. They are nice. They inflate very good. You can use them for thermaling. You can use them for XC, but they tend to be a little bit slow. And here in Egypt, you'll be dealing with stronger winds most of the time. So I think the single skin is not so fast. Sometimes if you drop behind the thermal, or if the wind starts pushing you backwards, you cannot apply the speed bar and penetrate against the wind. So with a single skin, you don't have the speed range, and the speed range is adding a lot to the cross country flying, to the different tactics, different techniques with the cross country flying. So you can use lightweight rescue, you can use lightweight harness, but I recommend you to use normal classic wing. Also, here I was flying from a lot of rocky surfaces, stony surfaces, and very tiny lines are easily catching them. You can easily break a line. So I even think that the gliders with the sheeted lines, like the old school gliders with the sheeted lines, are kind of better, more resistant, more easily slipping away from the rocks compared to the thin naked lines, which can more easily catch a stone or a rock and can more easily get damaged.
اوكي حتى يا جماعه عايز يسال
If climbing is a problem, first you don't need to climb so much here because you don't have such a big mountains. But you have to adjust yourself to the, for example, if you want to go at this place at 11 o'clock, you go just earlier when the temperatures are cooler. You can have a picnic, you can have a nap on the takeoff until the conditions start. So with logistical techniques, and you can overcome the problem of the hiking of the mountains. And it also keeps you fit. Like my current equipment is about 15 kilograms, and it's okay. You can make it even up to 10 kilograms by using normal winches, use more light harness and rescue. But yeah, keep a good wing. The rest can be compromised, but the good wing is a good wing.
Do you recommend a certain type of wings or certain brand that you think is more durable and fit for our climate?
I think not anymore. In the past, there were some wings using this galvanor fabric. I think it was South African and Sol from Brazil were using this, but they were having problem that they're having plastic deformations and the properties of the wing are changing quickly. So it was kind of losing its strength. So more or less, when you're looking for wing, look for wing with thicker surface area, thicker fabric. Sorry, which is which will resist more of this friction, sand, stones, and stuff like this. And yeah, that's it. Also, what is important when I made these flights, I was specifically choosing spots where the wind was not so strong to take off, because my lines were always catching something. So I wanted inflation in very light wind. I didn't climb the mountains to the top, but somewhere in the middle or up the middle. But if in strong wind you try to inflate, and if the lines are caught on something, you can very easily destroy your wing. And regarding trends, here you'll be changing wings maybe twice more frequently than in other green countries. So any cheap wing is welcome because you may damage it and then you need the next one.
I see. I see.
Yeah, and of course, in future, when you identify, in future when you identify the good spots, you can clean them, and you can even put some kind of net on them. You can experiment with this, this dark green color net, which is used to make a little shadow on parking lots and stuff. So you can improve the takeoff surfaces once you identify the good spots, and then the issue of the wing will be less. You expand the life of your wings. Yes.
اوكي نيكولاي. اوكي نيكولاي، في حد تاني عايز يسأل؟ خلاص كده طارق.
Also another question regarding flying in valleys. So we have like high mountains, but like you need to land in valleys, or there's another big mountain which is like you're between two mountains and you need to fly within the valley. So is this possible, like safety-wise, and how this happens? How does the thermal goes and the turbulence goes in this valley?
Yeah, okay, you've heard a lot about the valley flying in places like the Alps, but it's a problem for big mountain ranges. It's not so much of a problem here in Egypt, because the mountain ranges, they are working like a heat-low pressure system, sucking air from around, and then they create these strong valley winds, which are a problem sometimes in the Alps for landing. You can even land backward. They can be turbulent and stuff like this. But here you don't have this situation. You're having scattered mountains, not so much valleys, and you're exposed to mostly one wind direction and the interaction of this wind with these mountains. So it's not a problem. I try to figure out where you have where you would have such a valleys, maybe in San Catherine in Sinai, or maybe near the Hurghada mountains. But for example, in Galala, there is one takeoff which I flew. There is a quarry, there is a road going up to it. It's on the south side of the mountain. And you're landing next to the road, the main road going to Hurghada, from Cairo to Hurghada. But if you feel that the wind and the air is more turbulent and the winds are stronger, don't land at the bottom of the valley where it can be more turbulent. I recommend you to land on some of the slopes higher up where the wind flow is more smooth. Even if it's slightly stronger, it's better to land in a smooth flow than in a turbulent flow. So in some situations, it's better not to say, okay, let me land next to the road, let me show off and da. It's better to land somewhere higher where the flow is smooth and hike maybe even 1 hour to go to the road, but choose smooth places for landing.
Okay, thank you so much.
اوكي نيكولاي، حد عايز يسأل يا جماعة؟
Okay, another one.
Okay, following the same question of Mehdali asked
Okay,
me.
hi Nicola.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Muhammad is saying something or not. No. Okay.
Following the same.
Actually, I have
ثانية واحدة بس علي عشان هو مرتبط بنفس
so,
السؤال.
extending the talk with my colleague Tariq about cross country, I want to ask you about the flatland cross country. First of all, I want like some tips or general talk from you about regarding this topic. Especially, I didn't found a lot online about the flatland cross country. And the second thing, I knew you've encountered with Samuel spot or at least checked it out. Samuel, I think you saw it, right? The Samuel Ridge in Fayoum. Because I've always wondering in Samuel we can get from soaring there around 200 meters from ground as a height. So I was always thinking about the desert in front of it. It's like I don't know how much of it we can check the distance from Google Earth, but I think it could exceed 10 or 20 kilometers to the next ridge, which has also a very low height, like 100 or 50 meters. Then, as I'm understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the next ridge doesn't make a huge turbulence behind it because it's only 50 or 100 meters. So we have the whole desert in front of the Samuel. After we gain height from it during soaring, we can use it to train ourselves for thermaling. But only if we catch the thermal on the flatland, because you know surely more than me, if you go out of the power zone in front of the ridge, if you didn't catch the next thermal, and for me I didn't ever, so you will drop off and you will be landing. So give me your insight about this idea, because and if it's durable or if we can use it for learning how to thermal and to practice, since we can go there and go up and down several times during the day as a practice. And give me your tips regarding this topic.
Okay, so the question is how to start with the first thermaling experience, and how to start practicing and about places in a way. So one way is to go to these places like Al Fayoum or others, the low places which are soarable. But the problem of the very low place, like if it's less than 100 meter high, you need stronger winds to soar these places, and the stronger winds mean more broken thermals, more difficult thermals to catch. Generally, with strong winds, it's difficult to do the thermaling. You can make big distances. The records are done in strong winds. But for training-wise, I recommend you to look for days with lighter winds. Even if you bomb out, you walk up, 100 meters is not that much, so you can have several attempts. I think the place above Galal University, which I flew the first day, the track lock is in the group, is having more regular pattern of thermals. You're a little bit higher, so you have more opportunities there to play with thermals in this place there. Also, in the place in Fayoum or the places, the flatland places you're choosing, if you're looking for cross-country potential places, it's good to check what is the terrain doing behind. You say that you're having one hill behind, but what I don't like in this place is that the terrain is dropping towards Nile River. And it's good for cross-country flying to have a horizontal or a rising terrain after the takeoff, because the dropping terrain means more stability, means a little bit of downdraft, and more difficult to continue with the cross-country. Sometimes in the cross-country, the first thermal is easy because you go to a place which is soarable place, facing the wind. It's working well. You catch the thermal, you climb high, but usually the good lift producing place is having good sink producing behind. So often on cross country flying, the second thermal is more difficult than the first thermal when you're going. I'm still curious about the alpha U place. I think the slope behind is not that bad. It's not dropping that much. I've heard of some good heights from local pilots there. It still can work, and it worth trying. Of course, you have to do many flights, but go there in lighter winds. In stronger winds, it's difficult to recognize what is dynamic lift, what is a thermic lift, what is just a pure turbulence. So it's more difficult to learn in these difficult conditions. Once you're experienced, I'm sure you make big flights from this place. But in the beginning, for learning, it's a little bit difficult.
Okay. And so going from this to the next question, sure. What about what's your opinion about the 3 seconds rule of ceremony? That's very. Surely you know that the other briefing was that said when you enter ceremony to wait for 3 seconds before turning, because I've heard some pilots totally agree with it, and there is the other half is totally disagree with this rule. So what's your if you could explain it or discuss it with us.
I don't know if I'm doing the 3-second rule. I simply don't like the numbers. So I don't want to have limitations with this. But I prefer to have my feeling, to use my feeling about the thermal, when to turn and how much to wait. Of course, you have to filter stuff. Of course, you don't react on every kick. But you make sure you're entering lift properly. It might be 1 second or 2 seconds or 3 seconds or even more. So don't stay with numbers, but try to develop your feeling. When you have time, have a look at this book about cross-country flying. I send you a link in the beginning, or maybe somebody can resend it again. And in the thermaling section, I'm describing 2 thermaling techniques there, which are contradicting each other. Or should you tighten the turn during the increase of the climb? When you're also flying, you're working with the tendencies of the variometer, not so much the readings of the variometer. Like, I don't care so much if it's 1 meter or 4 meter per second climb. For me, more important is it increasing the climb or is it decreasing the climb? And according to this, the tendencies, I'm deciding how long to stay, when to turn, when to turn. So it's good to read this book. Even if you like, you can translate it in Arabic and share it with other people. Ask me more questions about this. But try to. The thermals are like bubbles and columns, and try to figure out what are their borders and when to turn, and don't be fixed with some rigid rule like 3-second rule.
Okay. I think you have briefly explained it.
Yeah. Read this chapter about the thermaling.
I will.
think it
Surely
will
I will.
better understanding and answers. I wrote these articles in this book because I was lazy to talk to the students. I prefer to answer questions once they read stuff.
Once my time. So you've answered it one time, and everyone has to do his homework. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. One last technical question, then a funny or an entertainment one. The technical one. I didn't since our instructor Allah yarhamu passed away. I didn't reach with him the level to use the speed bar, right? and I've the speed bar to penetrate. The speed bar, okay, yeah. And I've developed my skills alongside with my colleagues and with nice tips got from them actually, and they got me a lot of nice tips. So I've continued to enhance my skills without someone monitoring me. Now I've encountered several times during a high wind that really I just need a speed bar to penetrate the wind. Sometimes it's very high that I totally raised my hands, just I'm touching the handles, and my ground speed when I look down, it's almost zero. All I have to escape that, to turn away and try to get out of this power zone. So the only solution is I need a speed bar, but I'm afraid to use it. Well, not afraid, but I need some tips from you because I know I have to be very cautious when using it. First several times until getting the sense of it or the feeling of using it. So if you give me some tips or what to observe or what to just give me some tips regarding using it.
Okay, so first on your way to paragliding, even before thinking of cross-country flying, you fly a lot in these strong winds, in these low places with strong winds, and you can have more pleasure when you fly from bigger mountains in lighter winds compared to these strong wind places. I understand it's inevitable, and you have this type of flight. I'm also afraid that you will have also accidents with these strong wind low places in the past or in the future. So just be careful with this. When you're soaring, also you don't predict what is the tendency of the wind. That's why when you make forecast check, what is the wind at 3 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, is it increasing? Sometimes the inversion can in some places. After you survive the takeoff in the strong winds, and you may see that you're being blown backward. If it's a gusty air, if it's a thermic air, you shouldn't immediately panic and think this is the end, because you have to recognize from a momentary wind speed from average wind speed. For example, at average you might be trained slow, but for a moment you might be going backward. And then you may think, oh, I'm going backward, I'm blown out, let's apply the speed bar, but you're low, and then you may suffer massive collapse close to the ground. So you have to evaluate well the seriousness of the situation. Personally, I avoid using speed bar when I'm low, and usually after takeoff, the lift is lifting you up, the winds are stronger there, then it starts pushing you backward. In this situation, if I feel that I'm low, I will do big gears, which will bring me into the weaker wind. Or if the hill is not a very long ridge, I'll try to escape sideways with a little bit of crabbing, still keeping against the wind, but escaping sideways. I try to imagine the turbulence zone behind the hill. If it's a plateau, it's okay because it's not so bad. But the speed bar, I would use it only if I have sufficient height on takeoff, on landing, when I'm away from the ground. Because when you fly on speed bar, you're flying with too low angle of attack. This first means that the collapse is more likely to happen. And second, when you're on speed bar with higher airspeed, if the collapse happens, it will be more ugly. It will be much bigger, it will take much more time for recovery. So if you need to use the speed bar, it means you didn't make yours well. It means you're risking too much. The speed bar should be used only when it's really, really necessary. But don't go to fly with the idea that the speed bar is like a regular tool to use. In cross country, in other conditions, of course, we use it a lot. But with your soaring flights here, just try to fly in lighter winds.
Okay. Nice. Nice new perspective regarding this point. Thank you for that.
Okay,
Naisa and Tariq Nagi.
Okay.
Just
Can you hear me?
add something. The ability to make really big ears quickly is very important. Myself, I can say that it saved my life several times. You have to practice this to make big ears very, very quickly within, let's say, 1 second. Because this might be the difference of going down into the lifty air in front of takeoff or going up into the stronger wind after the takeoff. So sometimes you don't think, you react very quickly, and in 1 second you have to be able to make it big ears to descend to go down, and speed bar as well. Once you make the big ears, you can apply the speed bar. The glider is pretty stable in this configuration.
Nice tip. Okay. A new item to the rest for practice.
Okay, Nikolay, I just have 2 comments. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, first about the question of Mohammed Behdali about landing in the valley, okay?
Yeah.
Usually the valley is considered as air gap. You don't have any air inside, especially if it is small valley. Can you hear me? صوت كويس يا جماعة؟
Yeah, I hear you. I can hear you. The valley is usually a trap of the wind. The valley is channeling the wind, and sometimes the valley is accelerating the wind.
Yeah,
so these are the major issues.
You said it is not a big deal or big problem here in Egypt, but otherwise I see that landing inside valleys may consider dangerous because it is a pocket of rotors and leaves.
It depends very much. Generally, it's like this, but it depends very much on the character of the wind. For example, the wind, the valleys which are feeding big mountain ranges like Alps or which other mountains, Himalayas. When these mountains are working during the day and sucking air from around, the wind flow which is feeding them is bringing stable air from the lowlands. So the air which comes is stable. It's like a sea breeze, so it's not turbulent. It might be just strong, but not turbulent wind in the valleys.
Okay, second comment about the speed bar and the big ears. Most of time when you close your ears, the big ears, you descend but not penetrate.
Yeah.
So it will not help me to penetrate more. It may just lose my altitude. This cannot be
sometimes.
This cannot be applied every time because maybe I need to penetrate but not losing altitude.
Yeah, but if you need, for example, after takeoff, if you take off and if you need to use your speed bar to penetrate, this means that you made the wrong decision to take off in these conditions. You should avoid. This is a risky thing. If after takeoff you need to use your speed bar, this means that you're risking way too much. And the quick use of the big ears is just to go down to go into the weaker wind gradient zone. You can apply speed bar. You can lift up your body to worsen your glide ratio as well. Of course, you don't fly faster, but actually the difference between speed bar and big ears is I don't know. Not okay. In trim speed is maybe 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, or something like this. But speed bar close to the ground after takeoff, especially, it's a.
Okay, can you hear me well?
Sorry?
Can you hear me well? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you well. Yeah, I mean, in some situations I will do it But here is the difference. I have 27 years of experience, and I have a good feeling about the character of the wind when I'm on the takeoff. So it's good to study the wind gusts, the lulls, the periods, how long the strong moments are lasting, how long the pauses of the wind are lasting. It's also similar in the air. I kind of feel when the air feels safe, and I can I can use the speed bar in this situation after takeoff. But because you don't have so much of an experience, you may use the speed bar, you may rely on the speed bar, or you may take off in a moment you don't read well the wind, you don't feel well the wind because of lack of experience. And you might be hit by a strong gust or turbulence or vortex and have a problem, have a big collapse close to the ground.
Okay, my last question is about weather. Okay, my last question is about the weather. Can you explain for us what is the difference between inversion and conversion? Okay, and why it is so important to identify it during the day, and how to identify it, the inversion. So first, the difference between the inversion and the conversion. Secondly, why it is important to identify it, and how to identify it.
I mean, it is not risk threatening, life threatening if you don't identify them. These are just things which will improve your cross-country flying, and it can explain some things, some effects of the atmosphere, of the meteorology. But first, these things are completely different. The inversion means a layer where the air temperature is increasing with height. For example, during the night, the desert is cooling, or the ground is getting heat in space, and this cooling is cooling the air which is in contact with it. But if you climb higher, let's say 50, 100, 200 meters, above this, you're having the warm air from the previous day. And in this layer, you're having the temperature increasing with height. This is what we call temperature inversion layer. And the problem of the temperature inversion layer is that it is stopping thermals to rise. You don't have thermals when you have inversion. The inversion usually blocks the thermals. That's why in cross-country flying we don't like inversions, because we want to go higher. Of course, sometimes the inversion is good. For example, in more wet countries, the inversion is stopping the clouds to grow too much. We don't want too much instability.